Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film Roadhouse. Enjoy watching. The film begins with an underground fight. Carter beats up another opponent. Frankie is looking for him. The organizers are interested in who else is ready to challenge him. A guy in a hoodie enters the cage and starts to undress. Seeing him, Carter refuses to fight, leaving the ring. Having received the win, the stranger leaves, but in the parking lot, he is caught by a disgruntled client who lost $500 because of him and stabs him. The fighter's calm reaction scares him, and he runs away. Frankie helps a stranger named Dalton treat the wound and offers him a job as a bouncer in a bar on the island of Glass Cay. He refuses. The girl barely manages to give her number just in case. Dalton is not doing well. He lives in his car. When the cop tells him to leave the gas station, the man rolls to the railroad crossing in a fit of sad fantasies, driving onto the tracks. But he soon changes his mind. As a result, he barely manages to drive away from the locomotive, hitting the car hard. And then his gaze falls on the note, and he still decides to go. At the final stop, Dalton meets a girl named Charlie, who turns out to be the daughter of the bookstore owner. They explain to the guest how to find Frankie's roadside diner called Roadside Diner. There, the waiter Billy recognizes Dalton. Looking around, the guest does not notice how evening comes, and with it, the visitors wake up with a desire to get drunk with someone and fight to good music. Dalton watches as Billy breaks up the fight with the help of his friend Riff. The evening ceases to be boring when a gang of bikers led by Dal pulls up to the pub. They begin to sort things out, threatening Billy, breaking inventory. Realizing that this is the main problem, Dalton suggests that the guys go out. On the street, Dalton, after asking where the nearest hospital is, slaps all 5 of them. When this fails to calm their violent temper, he begins to hit harder, breaking bones and knocking out teeth. Having borrowed Frankie's car, Dalton carefully takes the beaten hooligans to the hospital. In the emergency room, he explains to the medical staff who he has injured so that they will spend less time examining them, but his care is not appreciated. Dr. Ellie sarcastically thanks the guest for the new patients, because of whom he will have to work overtime. Noticing the open wound from the recent knife, she offers to help. Back at the pub, Dalton receives his salary from Frankie. She allows him to live in a moored boat, warning him to beware of an alligator. The pier caretaker warns him about this when the man checks on board early in the morning. At night, Dalton has dreams that clarify the past. It turns out that he was a UFC fighter, a contender for the middleweight championship belt. During the day, his colleague, a bartender, will bring him home-cooked food. While he eats, the woman tells him that the dive has already changed many guards, but each one left, unable to withstand the pressure of the bikers. The bouncer goes to the bookstore, surprised that everyone greets him by name. He asks Charlie for permission to dig around on the internet. He wonders what value the bar represents if the bandits want to take it. At this time, bikers arrive at the neighboring store. The girl goes out knocked down to chase them away, but this is only possible when the bouncer appears behind her, hinting at a continuation of yesterday's fight. A couple of bikers go to the yacht to the boss Ben Brunt, a lover of everything spicy, food, sensations, and objects near his throat during the pitching. He is informed about a new bouncer, whom the gangsters fear for his ability to kick ass, including using a special cowboy method. In a pub, Dalton asks the owner why everyone has learned his name. It's all because of gossip, which spreads worse than cockroaches. In the evening, tipsy customers continue their traditional entertainment. The bouncer explains to Billy how to neutralize a bandit with a knife, but when he rushes into a second attack, Dalton personally breaks his arm to wean him off, threatening with a weapon. The experienced fighter continues to instruct the waiter, teaching him the intricacies of beating people up well. Later, Dalton hires Reef, who is engaged in boxing. He himself trains in his free time to stay in shape. Workdays are full of live music, alcohol, inadequate customers, and light violence. But soon the bikers are discharged from the hospital in full force and menacingly roar their engines in the parking lot, not risking to come within. Dalton continues to be tormented by nightmares about the UFC. Then, during the Battle of Views, he slapped the champion, which is not very polite. Later, he paid for this in the octagon. Waking up, Dalton has breakfast in a cafe, where he meets Dr. Ellie. She tells him that the locals live here according to the tribal principle. They don't like strangers, and the police turn a blind eye to many things. Dalton works diligently, receiving a thick envelope every week. Returning home at night, he sees a pickup truck that is quickly approaching. He manages to jump away, but the driver backs up, trying to finish everything. Dalton jumps into the back of the truck. Having broken through the barrier, it falls into the ocean. In flight, he manages to hear that the biker Del is driving. Later, Dalton finds Del with a gun on a boat. He wants to avenge the gang, but the owner throws the guest overboard, throwing a shotgun after him. An alligator, a reptile, immediately appears and decides that the bandit is her night snack, and drags him away. While the police are looking for the biker's remains, Charlie visits the bouncer. Leaving the store, Dalton bumps into a bandit who asks to get into the car. The boss wants to talk. When the bandit takes out a gun, Dalton breaks his fingers and takes the barrel. Having unloaded the gun and told his partner where the boss can find him, the bouncer goes to work. The loser reports the situation to Ben. Suddenly, the boss gets a call from his father, who is in prison. To avoid an unpleasant conversation, the leader throws the phone into the water. Knox, a womanizer, appears completely naked. Brant Sr. calls him from prison on the phone hidden in his boot and asks him to sort out the mess his son has made. Having squeezed a stylish, glamorous jacket from a clothing merchant and set the car on fire, Knox goes to Florida. Ellie, having borrowed a boat from a police officer she knows, invites Dalton on a boat trip. Having sailed out to sea, she stops the boat and, grabbing chairs and an umbrella, goes down into the water. It turns out that in the middle of the sea, there is an underwater spit along which you can walk. The girl asks the guy about the past, but he refuses to talk. While they are resting, Knox arrives at Ben's house. In addition to the educational slap in the face from his father, he brought dynamite to deal with a roadside diner and finish off an annoying bouncer. Having dropped off Dalton, Ellie notices how the police invite him to answer a few questions regarding the alligator's night feeding. However, he is not taken to the station, but to another pier, where the sheriff is waiting. The policeman offers Dalton to get off the island the easy way. When he refuses, he is dragged out at gunpoint and beaten until Ellie appears and slaps the sheriff. Having taken Dalton, she confesses that the sheriff is her father. He worked for Brant Sr., who essentially built the modern infrastructure in Kay's eyes. The bouncer, lost in thought, is unaware that Ben's subordinates are setting Charlie's bookstore on fire at that very moment as a message to him. In the evening, the former UFC fighter is late for work. Ben, a loser and the boss of the local thugs, sits down next to him. He shows Dalton a recording of his last performance, commenting on what is happening. Ben wonders why he beat up an already defeated opponent, who was also his friend. Leaving, Ben tells Knox to smash up the dive bar. Taking a gang of bikers, the thug goes to the pub. There, he heats up the situation, waving a golf club and bullying the customers. Billy tries to calm him down, but gets punched in the ribs. Reef then flies in a throw. Even when disgruntled patrons hold Knox down, he still has enough strength to fight back. Soon, the hooliganism escalates into a full-fledged brawl. Dalton watches what is happening with indifference, but when Knox, having reached the desired level of chaos, challenges him to a fight, he is forced to accept. They meet in the center of the room, where Knox turns on the trash talk mode and promises to beat up Dalton as if one of them is a movie star pretending to be a UFC fighter, and the other is a UFC champion pretending to be a movie star. The men sort things out, throwing each other all over the bar and smashing bottles of alcohol. In the end, Knox throws Dalton outside, informing him that he cannot beat him. Realizing that he has lost, he leaves. The bandits disperse, leaving the wounded to the medics and cops. Ben reports that Knox did not kill the bouncer, and that the cops from another precinct, not bribed by bribes, prevented the destruction of the bar. Dalton packs his things to leave. Frankie, convincing him to stay, accuses him of cowardice, to which he agrees. He really got scared. He goes to the bus stop, where he notices a burned-out store. The firefighters say that the girl and her father were sent to the hospital. That was their message. Dalton goes to Brant's house, where he finds the person responsible for the arson. The bouncer admits that he wanted to leave, but Charlie's fate made him change his mind. With a well-aimed blow to the throat, he breaks the bandit's Adam's apple, after which he pushes him into the pool. While he is drowning, Dalton says that he was really scared. Scared of what he would do if he did not surrender. He loads the body into the car, noticing another biker. He says he's getting off the island, and in gratitude for his life, he tells Dalton everything he knows about the boss's business. Taking a bag of Knox's dynamite, the bouncer goes to the yacht. There he has a recurring nightmare. He loses the title fight, but at the last moment his roof is blown off. Rushing into the attack, Dalton not only knocks out his opponent, but beats him to death before the referee can pull him away. Early in the morning, taking a corpse from the freezer, Dalton goes to a meeting place of corrupt cops and drug dealers. Having knocked out the sheriff's deputy, he takes the suitcase with money and shoots the corpse with a pistol to cover his tracks. Then, trying to induce short-term amnesia by concussion, the bouncer knocks out the awakened cop with a stick to the head. He anonymously calls in about a corpse on the shore and a suspicious officer, after which he returns to the boat to make a bomb. There, the sheriff visits him to inform him. The officer told him everything. But there is another problem. Ben has kidnapped Ellie. The sheriff asks for help, and Dalton agrees to return the money. He takes the boat of a police officer, Ellie's friend, and sails to Ben's yacht. On board, having learned that he did not bring the money, the guard hits him in the face, but Dalton does not even move. The sheriff is already there. The bouncer asks where Ellie is, but the bandits insist that he first bring the money. The situation is heating up, and Knox approaches the boat. He learned about the theft of explosives. Taking advantage of the delay, Dalton activates the bomb he brought. The emergency situation and panic allows him to go looking for Ellie. She is in the cabin below. When one of the bandits shoots, he breaks the window, allowing the fugitives to swim outside. Ellie climbs onto another boat, and Dalton uses his body as a shield from Knox's boat. Ben steals Ellie's boat. Knox tries to drown Dalton, but he dodges, climbs onto the boat, and throws his competitor into the water. Noticing the pursuit, Ben wants to crash into Dalton, but Ellie intervenes. As a result, the two sides part, but the blow throws the bouncer onto the boss's boat. But the boat rushes to the shore. Ellie and Dalton manage to jump off, and Ben is thrown onto the roof. Knox, having reached the bridge support, stops a passing car. On the shore, the bouncer is looking for a criminal who shoots back with a crossbow, but misses. Dalton wants to beat Ben, but then Knox drives into the wall in a pickup truck. The fighters meet in the second round of the fight. Realizing that an easy victory is not in sight, the bouncer even takes off his shirt. During the fight, the athletes tear the net and fall on the drums. Realizing that he is losing the fight again, Dalton resorts to trickery. He takes his opponent in a choke, his only weakness. Having wriggled out, he sticks a sharp piece of wood into the enemy's side. Then Ben intervenes, demanding to kill the annoying and irritating fool. Knox does so, breaking the boss's neck. Having recovered, Dalton intercepts Knox's hand with another splinter and sticks a piece of wood into him himself. Ellie and the sheriff show up. Hiding the gun, the cop tells the bouncer to leave before there are any witnesses. Leaving the suitcase with the stolen money with the bookstore owner, Dalton waits for the bus, while Frankie and the staff are busy renovating the bar. Charlie manages to ask the man if he wants to stay on their island, but he leaves anyway.